it's Emily, a contributing blogger at secondarysolutionsblog.com, and today I want to talk about an app that I absolutely love, which is called Explain Everything. It's $2.99 in the App Store, but well worth the cost. For a link to it and for more technology in the classroom blog posts, visit us at secondarysolutionsblog.com. Okay, so one way I could use Explain Everything in my English classroom would be to use it to annotate and teach close reading of literature, poetry, informational texts, or anything else. So I'm going to show you an example of how I would use Explain Everything to create a video lecture for the traditional or flipped classroom that looks at a close reading of Spenserian Sonnet 75. So I'm just going to pick a template, a color template, which you can change later. And I am going to add my first resource with this little plus sign. I'm going to add an existing photo or video. I'm just going to add a photo that I saved to my camera roll from the internet on my iPad, which is this scansion of the sonnet with the meter and the rhyme scheme, all that kind of good stuff. If I wanted them to pay close attention to the octave sestet structure, I could maybe make an arrow while I was talking about it, say if this is the octave. I could add text here that says that this is an octave while I'm talking to them on the screencast. Then I could do the same for the sestet. I could also hold it down and make a star. I can change the color down here. Want to star the rhyme scheme, that's going to be on the test tomorrow, something like that. I can talk to them about the poem this way, annotating it while I'm talking and creating this screencast. A little note about creating the screencast, you would just pick or press the record button at the bottom. I'm not actually going to record this presentation because it would interfere with my screencasting of the background of how to create this. So after I've done this, I would click that I wanted a new slide and I get a blank screen here. And now I want to add something different, like a file. You can add photos, iTunes, Dropbox, Evernote, Google Drive, a couple other options. I'm going to add a file from my Google Drive here. And I have this just in a Word document. I have the sonnet. It's going to load on there. You can have PowerPoint, Word documents, PDFs, anything like that in your Google Drive and import it directly here. Then as I'm talking to students about the content, if I wanted to revisit something about the meter, I could go ahead and mark the meter here. I can change colors at the bottom, separate iambs. If I wanted to highlight something important as I go along, I might pick a color more appropriate for highlighting here and make it a little less opaque. And then you can highlight words as you're talking about them. You can make notes to the side, either using the text tool or just writing it with your finger. If you want, you can just make yourself notes as you're talking or make notes for your students. So I would go through like that, labeling literary devices or poetic devices, meanings, levels of meanings. Just while I'm talking to them about it, I would annotate it the way that I would want students to annotate it. So then after I have gone through and written everything I'm going to write and talked about everything I'm going to write, I would stop the recording, and then I can go down here. If it's just an image, I can export the image. If it's the video, I can export the video to a lot of different places depending on how I'm hosting my videos for my students. That way, if I'm in a flipped classroom environment, I can post it for everybody. If I'm in an environment where I just want to post my lectures for students who are absent or students who need remediation or extra review, I can post it wherever it is that I'm going to post it. Another idea for using Explain Everything in the classroom is to import your PowerPoint presentation. So what I did was I saved my PowerPoint to Google Drive and then I imported it. I have a PowerPoint here about the raven, and then I could create a screen capture for students where I go through this PowerPoint that I've created for previous years. And so if I'm doing something like flipping the classroom or just changing the way that I look at technology and access in my classroom, I'm not remaking everything. I can use those PowerPoints that I'd created before. So I'm going to go ahead just for consistency's sake here and skip over to slide 7 here. And I would record myself talking about stanza 1, asking this question, give students a little time to think about it for themselves, and they can always push pause if it's a screen recording. Then I'd go on to the next and talk about what I think that I want them to get out of stanza 1. Just like in the poem, if I want to highlight something or write on something, I can underline as I'm talking, things like that. If I want to erase one of those, I can. If I want to add any of those arrows, stars, shapes, things like that, I can do that. I can add text just while I am presenting this PowerPoint to students. One more quick idea for how to use Explain Everything in the classroom would be to use it just for review things or teaching things like grammar. So I'm going to add a file from my Google Drive again. This time I need to add something outside of English 12. So I'm going to go to Miscellaneous School, Grammar Unit 6 Review. And now I can go through and do an activity with them where maybe I do a screen capture where I give them a couple minutes or I tell them to pause while they try to recognize whether the word in italics is a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. And then I could go through afterwards and give them the answers and explain why certain words are what they are. So I might want to zoom into it here, and I would say have a pin ready with a medium pin size here, a color that I like. So I'm going to go down to the colors and maybe choose this one. And then the first word here is funniest, but I'm going to say what does funniest modify? Funniest modifies the joke, and therefore funniest is an adjective. And I could go through with students after I've given them time to pause and try it for themselves. These are just a few ways that you can use Explain Everything in the secondary classroom. If you have questions or comments, please visit us at secondarysolutionsblog.com. Thank you.